everybody, this is Alma Love Books. I'm your host Alma and welcome again to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my May reading wrap up, and my April month for reading wasn't that great. I got into a bit of a slump and, life led to one thing and another and another and another, and I didn't read anything in the month of April. To make up for it, I read 7 books in the month of May. So I'm going to go down my list, and I'm going to go from worst to best, in my humble opinion. And I didn't have a particularly fantastic month. None of these books got a 5 out of 5 for me, but none of these books got lower than a 3. So there's that. It was a middle ground month, and I was perfectly okay with that. So I'm not going to tell you the star ratings I gave of each specific book, but know that none of these books got less than 3. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Letters to Sam by David Gottlieb. Now, this book was basically a compiling of letters from a grandfather to his grandson. The grandfather is in a wheelchair, the grandson has autism, and he's just, relaying all these lovely, kind, little messagey bits. And the reason that this one is the first on my list to be talked about is because I don't rate nonfiction. Anything nonfiction does not get rated other than to relay the writing style. And this one was written as letters. Excuse my son, he's upset because he doesn't want to eat lunch. He's mad at me for making a sandwich when he wanted a cookie. And that is, the life of motherhood. Right there in one quick sentence. I keep having to adjust my camera. I don't know why, ever. Anyway, so it's just letters from grandfather to grandson. And there are some really sweet moments, memories that the grandfather has of the son's mother, and, just different little tidbits of life along the way. Wrote down memories he has with his grandson as well, gave him some advice or, some sort of life lesson that needed to be learned. The next one I put on my list was The Mind Platter by Najawa Zibian. This was, again, a nonfiction. It was basically kind of an advice book, or just, this person writing down their mind's ramblings. And the reason that it's as low on my list as it is because, one, it's nonfiction, so again, I don't rate it, but a lot of the advice or musings, as you will, came off a little bit more pretentious than helpful, or a little bit more judgmental, in a sense. I didn't care for it. I ended up putting it down halfway through, picked it back up again, read bits, put it down, picked it up, read bits. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody who actually feels like they need advice. It's more for somebody who already kind of has their life set and to the way they like it, and then they can read somebody else's point of view of life. The next book on my list is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I don't overly know how I feel about this one. It was a little darker than I'm used to seeing a lot of my fairy tales. Yes, I read grim fairy tales, so I shouldn't be surprised by this. But I don't know. Part of me thought it was written well for the genre that it is. And then the other part of me felt that it was written too what's the word I'm looking for here? It was written in a way that dumbed it down. There are different things that she could have said to portray her message a bit better, but instead she was trying to write too much like a teenage girl and forgot that this teenage girl was still a teenager, because she'd give her different statements that sounded profound and very grown up, and then the next minute she was a whiny teenager again. And it's like, okay, you gotta pick one personality here. She doesn't have the two separate personalities. And then there was the fact that she added in some racial profiling and the feelings behind it, but there was no context to it. So basically the context was they were in this they were driving along in this car, and a police officer stops them, and the main character just goes ballistic, and she freaks out at this cop for pulling them over. And her passenger, who happens to not be of Caucasian ancestry, says, if I had said something like that, I would have gotten in so much trouble. You're taking white privilege way too far. And I honestly didn't think that it was necessary in this situation to add that racial profiling. I get that maybe she wanted to put in there that this character was upset about, the profiling that happens. And I think it could have been put in a separate spot in a different type of context and not being construed as just an, oh my goodness, you're throwing a tantrum, I'm not allowed to throw a tantrum, so I'm going to be upset. The subsequent actions afterwards were ridiculous as well. So, not my favorite read.
Go away.
Not a terrible read, but not my favorite. I tickle you. Yeah. Tickle. Attacked Mommy. No, don't attack Mommy. Mommy gives you food. So the next book I read was Tales of the Peculiar, and this is a companion book. So if you've read Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, you'll understand what I mean. This is basically the compiling of Peculiar's tales before Miss Peregrine's existed. And so it was basically fairy tales. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it wasn't anything absolutely terrible either. So this one, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't anything to write home about either. I personally prefer the Grimm's fairy tales to these ones. It's just my preference. The next one is Wild Girl. Now you'll see my theme for this month apparently. I didn't realize I was going by a theme, but apparently I was. So this is a third book about fairy tales. Okay, so this one is a story about a girl named Dorchen Wilde. And Dorchen Wilde, at the end of this, she is the woman who married Wilhelm Grimm. And as anybody who knows Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm's fairy tales, you'll know that a lot of them, actually most of them, are what were called spinning tales. So women would get together in that day and age, and they would talk as they were darning socks or, doing needlepoint or whatever, and they'd just sit and they'd have their gossip circle and they'd talk and they'd tell tales. So these tales were combined into a book that eventually became Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm's fairy tales. And Dorchen Wilde was one of the main contributors to these spinning tales. She was also the next door neighbor of the Grimms growing up. Yes, I see it.
Which picture?
So it tells her story and how she came to know Wilhelm and Jacob and how she helped them out in their rough times, how her father treated her, and so on and so forth, up until she finally gets to marry Wilhelm Grimm. Yes, Dorchen was a real person, and yes, she did actually get to marry Wilhelm Grimm. My next book is The Face Faker's Game, and this one I have already done a review on because I did a buddy read with Laura over at Laura Pora, and so I won't talk your ear off too much about this one again. I will let you know that it is a series that I intend to continue on with if and when Chandler J. Birch decides to finally make a second book. What?
We're watching the match.
We will watch PJ Masks a little later. Okay. And so the last one is Magonia, and this one's by Maria Davina Headley. There's a sequel, and I'm definitely going to be continuing on with this one. So it starts off with Aza Ray, who is unable to breathe. She's got a mysterious disease. Let's try that again. She's got a mysterious disease that makes it so that she can't breathe. And she was told that she wouldn't live past her 16th birthday. So they're doing everything they can to keep her alive. And by keeping her alive, keeping her on oxygen tanks, getting her the best possible health care that they can, she dies. Basically at the beginning of the book. But it turns out she is the captain's daughter of Amina Perenum. And this is a ship in Magonia, which is a city in the sky, basically, of bird people. So she finds out that she is actually the captain's daughter, and the captain wants to use her specific gift to wreak havoc on Earth, basically. But she says it in such a way that Aza's completely enamored and is like, okay, well, I can help. Yes, of course I'll help. You're my mother, I'm going to help. All the while, everybody around her is telling her, no, your mother is out for vengeance. Your mother is out for vengeance. She doesn't fully listen. It also has Jason's point of view, and Jason was her friend on Earth when she was ill and sick and dying. And he realizes that she's not dead, and he goes to find her. He tries to find her. He figures out what the mother's plotting without realizing that the mother's actually plotting it. But he realizes where he needs to go. And so he goes and he helps Azure figure out what's going on. So she and he still friends, which is what I like about this. It's not a romantic thing. Like, they end up together in the end, yes, but it's not like my whole life is revolved around loving this person, and if I don't love this person, I'm going to die. No, it was I love this person for who they are, and I understand that they're still alive, and I want to find them. I want to make sure that they know that I still care. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. I'm looking for the second book in this series, and I will continue reading it. Thank you for listening to my May reading wrap-up and watching my child go berserk around me. I hope you have a lovely afternoon.